only then, when I think that I am doing something, when I am powering through, when I'm using just my intellect, when I'm using my resume, when I'm doing any of those kind of things, the thing I'm doing is so small compared to what's possible when I let it flow through me. The thing I'm doing is so small. And I can take these tiny little bits of pride in something, and then I let it go. I let it go. Because the only good work is leading people to that place in themselves that exists right here and right now, that is perfect, whole, and complete, and never fails. This love that never fails. There's a beautiful last verse in that song that says, "No need to wander to foreign lands. My truth is here, my good at hand. Bless me to see the joy of your spirit as me." And I thought about that line, no need to wander to foreign lands. Of course, here I am coming back from foreign lands to come and do this talk. And I love Paris. I love Italy. Many of you know that Jane and I spend a month there sometime, in summertime often, because it's beautiful and we enjoy it and all those things. But we had this epiphany happen, and it was really something. We do dream boards every year. Anybody do that kind of thing where you cut paper and you choose ideas that really are compelling to you? We did our dream boards, and one expression that Jane cut out from a magazine said, "Where will you be when you know everything has changed?" Interesting. It was just in the back of my mind. We were sitting in a cafe in Paris, just like in a kind of a movie set, beautiful, everything's yummy. We're having a little glass of champagne. It's a beautiful place, looking at the Notre Dame. Everything's wonderful. And something in me shifted as I looked around at my beloved city that I have fell in love with. There were times when I arrived there that I would cry because I was so happy to be in the beauty of what I felt this city represented and the way that the aesthetics and what it stood for and all the stories. And I would just cry. I'd be so happy. This time I was sitting there looking at it, and it still looked beautiful. But the feeling that I thought I was getting from it was in me. And I said, Paris is here. And so is Italy. And so is the Northern Lights. And so is every other idea that I have on my bucket list that I must do. It's already here. And it doesn't mean I'm not going there. Doesn't mean I'm not going to continue to go to Paris. But I'm going to see it in a different way, knowing that I'm living in grace in Paris, in Italy, here with you, because it's already here, and it's right where I am, and it's never, ever, ever missing. I don't have to go anywhere for it. I knew it intellectually, but I didn't know it in my soul until the thing that I thought was my favorite great thing was in me, right here. So I can go places, I can do things, I can talk to people, I can have experience. Most recently, there was a book that came out, and it's called Out and Equal. It's a beautiful book that a dear friend of mine, Celeste Berry, who heads up an organization called Out and Equal Workplace Advocates, which is about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people in the workplace, especially executives, being authentic and out at work. I wrote a chapter in that book about my own story, and I was very surprised to find in the acknowledgments that she acknowledged that I was part of the reason why the book was written. I thought, that's so sweet. I was very moved by that. And then the next chapter was a CEO of Intuit Corporation, who I had done work with, but he mentioned in the chapter, and that Christie of Spirited Contribution, led our team through this process, and wow, I was so surprised. I was so surprised by that. And then there was a third thing, and there was a woman who's a head of the global services for Dell Corporation, and she mentioned, mentor and Christie Hardwick, and I thought, wow. And it was a wow in a different way than it's ever been before. I wasn't seeking it. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't trying to get it on my resume. I wasn't trying to get people to say something about me. I wasn't hoping it happened so that I could leverage it into a job. It was just me being me doing the work. And that's what happened. They got touched. And I said, oh, this is what I'm here for. And I'm so happy that it mattered so much that I was there. And the only reason why those people mentioned the work that I'm doing with them is because the work has become me as God. So I know they're recognizing God and their God self. They're recognizing the good that I'm allowing to come through me. And they're feeling good about it because I'm helping them to see that it's not me, it's you. And look what's possible with what you do. I appreciate you acknowledging that I might have been the person who said something that opened that up for you, but it's not about me. And that feels so freeing. And I am in such celebration of the idea of being in these waters of living grace at all times that I do everything I can to be willing and to get out of the way of that and trust. Because sometimes things don't make sense. Do you ever get callings that don't make sense to you? You think, I'm to do that? I'm to do that? And this ride that we're on, this ride in this water of living grace is like being on the river, and Scott mentioned how there's nothing upstream for you. It's all on the flow, continuing down the flow, right? It makes grooves in yourself, widens you, opens you, and allows more and more to flow through you. And you just trust and you go. Now, I don't know what's around all the bends anymore. I used to try to control what's around the bends, and I would probably get off the path and get out of the flow and step over here and say, I want to go left now. Even when I was being pulled and drawn to go forward. But now I'm staying in that flow, even when it doesn't make sense. Things like flying across the country to do something. I didn't know that who that was going to touch, and who knows what lives are happening right now. It's not my job. My job is just to be me and do me as God itself, expressing uniquely as me. And just a couple of weeks ago, Jane and I were at a friend's home in New Hampshire. We were out canvassing for an unnamed politician. Knocking on doors, speaking what we understood as our truth about what might be good. And we were doing that work, and we stayed at a friend's house who had a huge homestead that was like a farm, and 70 acres, and all the sons lived on it. It was just a beautiful, expansive place. And there were trees, and there were meadows, and we just loved it. Thought it was, wow, this is really beautiful, and appreciated that. And we came home, and Jane was looking at the newspaper, our local newspaper in Provincetown, Massachusetts. A lot of people get confused. We don't live in Providence, Massachusetts. That's Providence, Rhode Island. Provincetown, Massachusetts. Okay. And it's the tip of the Cape. And so there we are. And the newspaper talks about this little town next to Provincetown, which is called Truro. Provincetown is a village. It's a great village. It's like a big carnival. I mean, there's so much that goes on there. There's artist colony, there's beautiful entertainers, it's always full of vibrancy, and so many things are happening, and I have such a great time there. You can do anything you want to do. I have a television show there. I sing as a bootlegger, sometimes. That's my 20s. I'm called Trixie when I'm doing that. And I sing things like, I want some sugar in my bowl. But there's all that's available there. You can be and have and do all. So part of our allowing the flow is to show up there, because this is a beautiful place for us to play and be. And we felt always that we wanted to live in a village, always had to be someplace where you could walk out the door and be right into the middle of the action, and we get on our bikes and go places and have beautiful paths and nature, as well as all the fun stuff and great restaurants and bars. It was just so beautiful. That was the dream. Someone reminded me that knew me about 15, 20 years ago that said, you had a dream that you would live near the water and you'd be able to wear black and write and do these kind of things. So I had this vision of this thing. And I sit in my window seat today and I'm writing something, and I'm looking out at the bay, the Provincetown Bay, looking at the light shining in Cape Cod. That's so gorgeous. So you think at some point, okay, I have what it is I said that I wanted on a material level. But yet there's something in me that continues to want to move forward. What is that? It's our nature. It's our nature as divine beings that we're going to continue to grow and expand and continue. If we try to hold on to something and say, okay, this must be it. I must be at the perfect place. I got to stay. We miss out on something. And that is the greater expression of the thing itself through us. So when we left here, I know people said, how could they leave that house and that beautiful thing in the backyard and all that stuff? And we went to Half Moon Bay, and we had an amazing time there, and a beautiful yoga studio, and we deepened our practice, and so many wonderful things happened there. And then we said, oh, we're going to leave California. How can you leave California? Oh, my goodness. And then we go to Provincetown, and it's just, wow, such a great thing. Now, Jane opened up this newspaper and saw this house 10 minutes from where we are in a different town. And she said, hey, look at this house, I can't believe they have this kind of prices. It's so different from where we are, I'm so curious about it. Why don't you call them and see what this is about and see if it's really real? I mean, there must be something wrong with it. So I call, and I think to click down the phone, listening to the different agents to see if I know one of the people who's represented. It turns out we do know someone. It's a good friend whose husband owns a coffee shop, and we say, okay, why don't we go look at this house? He says, that one got sold. But let me show you Truro. Let me just show you the town, show you what it's like. So we take some drives through this beautiful part of Cape Cod, which is just 10 minutes from the village of Provincetown, without any interest in making any changes whatsoever. We're just curious. We're just curious because we've been called to go look at this. The third house, we stop. We look out at the deck. I look at Jane. She looks at me, and I say, oh, my God. And it was a view of what's called the Pamet Valley in Cape Cod, all nature preserved, gorgeous all the way out to the bay. The deck juts out, and it's very private, beautiful. The house is got 5 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms. It's really big and everything. And we lived in a 1,200 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, crooked Cape house, which we absolutely adore. Sitting in our window seats, and we said, we're done, we're complete, we don't need any more big houses, we're done with mortgages, we're not doing this anymore. But we continue to stay open to expansion and change. Now, we don't know how it's going to work out. None of us ever do. But I'll tell you this, somehow, Spirit has led us to a home that's 10 minutes away, that still lets us have the village and close enough, that has all this space that will allow our children to stay with us when they come all together, that will allow us to have more contemplative and sweet time, that maybe will allow me to have some retreat or some workshop or something at the beautiful home, for the same price of the one that we're selling. Okay? So we said, no, we're not doing big mortgage. We don't have to do a big mortgage. If you're clear about what it is you're allowing in your life, you don't have to know how it gets worked out. I could have never figured this out. I could have never thought that, first of all, that I would ever come to a place of being willing to leave the village. Because if you try to force yourself and say, well, I could get what I want if we just go buy a house in a place that's more remote and we can have our mortgage low, and you try to solve for the thing in your head. And then you go get yourself there and you say, okay, got it. I'm in the, doesn't work. It doesn't work because you didn't stay in the flow and allow yourself to grow and go with Spirit as you, rather than trying to do it on your own. And make things harder than they need to be, thinking everything depends on me. So it doesn't. What you have to do only, and I have to do only, is be willing. I'm willing. I say to Spirit, I'm willing. Let's go. Let's go to Truro. We put our house on the market. Our friends, their heads are spinning. Are you kidding me? You live in this, in this little town, the West End is, kind of the place to be, and and it's quiet and everything. And we have a view of the bay, have beach access, we have a pool in the back, and It's the stuff that you're supposed to want. You never give that up. And they are totally besides themselves thinking, what is wrong with these women? I first could get this and get that, but I don't get this, but that's okay. Because I'm not measuring myself by the world standards, I'm measuring myself by my internal guidance from Spirit. And I know that that's the way to go. That's where my joy is. That's where my peace is. And that's the way I model for the people in my life and who I touch and who I help and the leaders that I coach, is to say, I'm walking the talk, I'm following Spirit, I'm allowing myself to be peace in your presence. And the only way I can do that is to, whenever I think of anything, the first thing is Spirit. Let that be your way.